thank you so much for being here, where we're going to talk about, like, basically under the premise of what I wish I knew when I was single. Because the funny thing is when I look at my life when I was single, I really believe that I had a pretty accurate perspective of what it would be like to be married and to be with someone. But then I found out that I was an idiot and I had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So like, you guys have been married for how long?
3 years?
Yes.
Yeah, about 3 years now.
3 years?
And for those of you guys who are watching who don't know Jordan and Angela already, they're incredible. Can you guys just introduce yourselves, like what you do, what's your life about, like who are you guys? Why would you even be on this couch? Why should people care about what you're saying?
Yeah, so I'm Jordan, and I work for this church called The Collective. And with that work, I moved here in 2014, but then also met my wife here 2019, and that was the beginning of our dating, but also the times that we like broke up, we had our fights, issues, and then we got married during COVID, and now we are still surviving 1 year at a time. Yeah, in the marriage life. Yeah, what about you, babe?
Yeah, my name is Angela, and I am from the Netherlands. I was actually born and raised in the Netherlands, but I'm full Indonesian, Indonesian Chinese. I'm a YouTuber.
Okay.
So I actually used to be a professional singer, but then during COVID, I made like a career shift. So now I'm full-time on YouTube, and I'm married to this person.
You're married to a pastor. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You go
I
from
know, it's
singing
crazy.
professional to marrying a pastor.
I never,
wild.
by the way, thought that I would marry a pastor.
Yeah, why not? Because most pastors are losers, or why?
Yeah, be real,
Why
babe.
not?
Why
Be
not?
honest. Share.
Why
I
would
mean,
you marry a pastor?
honestly, I just feel like I never thought I would fit into like the pastor's wife category.
I never felt like I'd fit in the pastor's wife category either. However, now I feel like if I ever had to be a pastor's wife, I would love it. I would love
Really?
just being able to be like, yeah, you go, babe. You know, and I just, yeah.
That's
it.
true, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's so, because you're very driven though, Angela. You're a very driven chick. Like you have a lot of ambition, a lot of desire on your own. Is that why you felt like you never, did you kind of see like, oh, being a pastor's wife is kind of like being in the back seat? Did you look at it that way before?
No, not at all. Actually, the opposite. I always thought that being a pastor's wife is like you're very much like you're becoming this kind of like, or you have to become this kind of like role model to people, even though you're not like on stage preaching or anything like that. But I think the pressure of being like,
it's kind of like being a pastor's kid.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you were a pastor's kid. Your parents were in ministry for a long time. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So that feeling of like pressure, like, oh, I have to represent everything that my parents are preaching about.
Yeah.
And in this situation, it's like as a wife, oh, I have to represent everything that my wife or my husband is preaching about.
Yeah.
That can like obviously feel intense, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I ask you a question? You just said you're from the Netherlands. I grew up always calling it Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that because I'm American and I don't know what Europe is?
You can say both, actually.
So, but when you're from the Netherlands, you call it
Yes.
the Netherlands.
I
Are there
call
any
it the
Dutch people
Netherlands.
who call it Holland?
Yeah, I'm actually very curious about that. I've never
Not
reconciled
really,
that, though.
because if you say it in Dutch, you say Nederland, which is the Netherlands.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we don't really say Holland.
Where did Holland come from?
Yeah, I was literally gonna
Who
ask that.
invented
I'm
that?
actually
Was
very,
that the British?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Can someone Google that and put it in the
Yeah.
comments? Who invented the word Holland? That's what I want to
you
know.
gotta know.
Yeah.
I want to know. Because it's weird, like, yeah, but anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Okay, so what we're talking about, we are talking about what we wish we knew, and that is specifically on the topic of, like, being single versus being married.
Yeah.
And it's like the fantasy,
Yeah.
the Netflix, the Hulu version of marriage
It's a
and
lie.
relationship versus reality.
Sure.
Right? Because like when I was single, there's a few misconceptions that I had that I really believe. Number one, I'm like, okay, first of all, I am so lovable, and my wife will love everything about me
Yeah.
because I'm so lovable.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one, and I believe that until now.
Yeah.
Right? Even though it's not true, I still hold on to it. Number two, I had a very clear picture of like what our relationship would be like living together with her. Like one thing I'm like, oh, well, obviously we're gonna want the same thing. So if I'm like, hey, we should do this, she's gonna be like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And it would blow my mind when I was first married when she'd be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's lame, or I don't agree with that. And I was like, but why? Like, how do you not how do you not think all my ideas are amazing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it would like stress me out. And I would be like, I remember I would call like my mentor and be like, I think my wife is broken. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I give her these great ideas and she's like, I don't think those are great ideas. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Right? But it was weird that I didn't see that going in, that like she would be like, no, we shouldn't do this. And even simple things. Like, I'm like, hey, let's clean the house. We're going to have people over. She's like, I don't feel like cleaning the house right now. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what does that mean? Why'd you look at him? What, Jordan does not like to clean the house?
Well, I do want to clean the house when people come over.
I mean, I think it's just standards.
Oh my god.
His standards are different.
No, no, I mean yes,
Yes.
but like I'm sometimes the one that's like, babe, if people are coming over, let's like do this thing. Can I do that thing? You know, and all that. Like sometimes.
What is that thing and what's this thing? What are you
So for
talking
example, like we have like a like we don't have a maid or anything, so we have like one of those little cleaning robots. So if people are coming over, I'll be like, babe, can I run the cleaning robot or something? But for example, something will happen where if I run the cleaning robot, I forgot to put on certain things. Like I forget to put up the chairs or forget to put up certain things. So she will be like, babe, like, yes, we should do that, but you have to do it the right way or else it's double the work.
Exactly.
But then I will feel like, I mean, okay, I'll do that. Like I always try to do that. But then as I try to do this, like, you know, can we just get this done? Because you know, people are coming over, all these things.
Yeah.
But then it becomes an issue for us is that because I don't do it in the right way or up to her standard, you know, either we end up not doing it or I end up not doing it or something. It just becomes a fight.
Do it.
Yeah, but then you end up doing it. Yeah, you end up doing
You do it after he does it.
If I do it
Yeah,
wrong the
'cause
first
it's-
time. If I do it wrong
I
the
Did
first
you
mean,
not know
when-
that about Jordan before you lived with him?
No, I think because whenever I would see
You
him,
did know, but you just looked past it until he got married.
I did not know because when you
Sure.
see Jordan at church, when you see him preach, all
Yeah,
that stuff, he
so
looks
polished.
very like polished.
Sure.
He looks like
Yeah.
clean. But yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
What is the thing that surprised you most about Jordan that you would never have guessed in a million years? That you're like, oh, I love this guy. He's a pastor. He's so amazing. What was something that you were like, are you kidding me right now? That just blew your mind.
Yeah. That she didn't like about me.
oh, it
After
didn't
she
like
left.
or
Didn't
just like something
or
like
just-
mind blowing.
Yeah, something that you like, are you kidding me right now? It took you a while
Yeah.
to like process it out.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't like the romantic picture in your head.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a lot. I just feel like
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
what's
but
the lot?
no, I'll start with something that I do like is that I love his humor, and I think not a lot of
right,
people
baby.
know this, but he has a very like particular like humor that I actually really like and think is
Yeah.
really funny, and I never would have guessed that he would be like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so crazy because Jordan, I've loved Jordan's humor since like forever. Like we have been sharing memes with each other for so many years.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Probably.
But like I love his humor so much. But you
Yeah.
didn't see that beforehand?
No, I feel like he was holding back a little bit. I mean,
Ooh.
he was always funny. When
Yeah.
we were dating, he would always make me laugh. But I think it's when we got engaged when it started to like
Come out
get
more.
darker and darker.
And you love it. And you love that about him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like he was kind of like testing me. He would throw in like one little dark joke, like very like light still, and then I would laugh, and he was like, "Okay, I can go."
Oh, she's
like,
ready for level 2
yes,
now.
Yes.
Oh, she's ready for level 3.
Yeah.
So that's smart, Jordan. You really
Yeah.
played
Yeah,
it cool.
he's
You're like,
smart.
you let her like kind of stick her toe in the water, then her whole leg, and then her body, and then
But I wouldn't say
before she knows
intentionally
it,
did
she's
that.
just surrounded by corruption.
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, that's how it feels like.
Yeah.
Sometimes that we look back and I'm like, oh God, what have I done? You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh gosh, we went too far in this, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't say I intentionally did that. I just think that maybe when people are dating, there's just parts of them that they don't realize, like people sometimes will show the best of them in some
Yeah.
ways when they're first dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the more it naturally, that just naturally happens sometimes. I don't think people intentionally try to do that.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, as you get closer and closer, the more like, I don't know, you just become more intimate, more real, and the parts of you that are just naturally there that might come out with your friends you've known for 10 years,
Yeah.
start coming out with your wife that you are getting to know now for 2 years, you know? And so that's how I kind of feel like it started happening. I wouldn't say I was like, I'm not gonna be dark with you or anything like that, but
Yeah.
it would just be, it progressively became like this thing of like,
Yeah.
the more we're together, this thought popped in my head and I was like, oh babe, blah, 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 this joke. And then, you know, it came out, you know, and yeah.
So what was something that like wasn't romantic? Because like that's the thing. Like Angela, you come across as a pretty romantic girl. Like you're very like I kind
No,
of
she
see you, and I
does.
also see you like kind of like this like kind of Disney princess a little bit. You're like everything is
Really?
beautiful and amazing, and like you're very optimistic. You're very positive. You're very light. You know what I mean? What was something that you were like, oh, this is going to be so romantic. I'm going to be living with my husband, and then you found out that it actually looked very different than your expectation.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is when we lived together. So when he moved in, I think I always kind of like romanticized like living together with your partner.
Yeah.
Because I thought like, oh, it's gonna be like a sleepover every night. You wake up together.
Yeah.
You're always together. It's like so much fun.
Yeah.
Like he never has to go home, all that stuff. But
Never has to.
then actually, when Jordan moved in, it was like really rough because we just had like different like lifestyles. I think I'm very like clean and neat, and Jordan like has his version of it.
His
but it's
version of
not
clean and
like
neat.
So nice.
Which is his version of clean and neat is probably equally as valuable. You know what I mean? Like does Jordan leave his underwear all over the floor? Like is it like crazy? Like does he? Yeah, like
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what about water in the bathroom? Does Jordan get water all over the bathroom floor after he takes
Oh
a
yeah,
shower?
100%.
Everywhere. Do you do that?
100%.
Yeah, you don't do that.
No, never.
No, not at
No.
all.
And
What
well,
are
I
you
mean,
talking
it gets
about?
wet, obviously, but then I like
You
dry
wipe
it
it up, but
yeah.
he just tracks water
Oh, yeah,
everywhere.
maybe
He
that's
like
funny. I
is
don't
totally
try it
oblivious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that true, Jordan? Do you do that?
Yeah, like let's say if like the bathroom windows get foggy, I don't really try to defog it. Then
Yeah.
it creates those
Are
like
you
watermarks.
supposed to defog it?
I don't know, but like when you get those watermarks, right? You know, you're
Sometimes I
supposed
go to
do that.
people's house, I see the squeegee in the shower. Is that what that's for?
Supposed to
Yes.
be.
Are you supposed to do that every time you
Supposed to.
shower?
Oh my goodness.
She has that.
Oh,
We
that's
literally
so
have
much
that in
hard
our
work.
bathroom.
Who
We literally have
wants-
it in our bathroom, but I
You
just
have a
don't do it.
squeegee in your bathroom?
Yeah, right. It's right next to our window.
Always,
Did you buy the squeegee?
always. Yes, of course.
I've never thought about buying a bathroom squeegee for myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the best.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, so you would say you have a different standard of clean.
Yeah.
And like, what was it like when you sat down with him and you were like, hey, I don't think our standards of clean align? Like, was that an easy conversation? Jordan, how did you feel when that happened?
I mean, it's like
Did
a
you feel
continuous.
persecuted?
Yeah, it's a continuous conversation. Because
Yeah.
it feels like I understand your level of clean, but like what it will always feel like is that there's always other things that I'm doing that if I do get to cleaning, and then if it's not up to her standard, it's like, is it just never enough?
Yeah.
You know, like there's so many things I'm doing and I'm a part of, and then you want me to do all of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like
'Cause then it's like,
when
what
will
are
it
you
end?
doing?
Yeah. Right.
Like,
That's
how
what
am
it
I
feels
doing all
like.
these
Yeah,
other
that-
things
that's what it
and now
feels
I'm
like.
doing these things?
Yeah, that's what it'll feel
It's
like.
like, what's your job, girl?
Yeah, and that's
You know?
and that's where we had a very very intense conversation recently about that like, because I don't want to undermine the fact that she does do a lot of stuff
Yep.
within the home while she's trying to build her YouTube and her career and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
all that.
right? So, but I think it'll feel like that because of all the things I'm doing that she might not see and the things that she's doing that I don't see. When it gets to like the chore things that we're doing, that's where, you know, if her standard is not matching, you know, my standard or something, and I have to work harder at it, that's where it feels like my effort and her effort, you know, it's not matching, it's not equal, and it becomes like a fight, and it becomes a confrontation.
Dude,
you know?
Janae said that to me one time. In fact, she said to me multiple times. She said, like, you always place value on the things that you do and need to accomplish way over the things that I need to accomplish.
Sure.
So she's like, if you have a meeting, you're like, I can't miss this meeting. If you have stuff to do, you're like, I'm busy, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But if it's like me, you're like, oh, why can't you reschedule that? Or why can't you do that at a different time? Or why can't you just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she has gotten mad at me so many times because I just do that by default.
Sure.
But I feel like
Sure.
I feel like we all kind of do that as humans, right? We
Yeah.
all, whatever is important to us, we kind of have an expectation that it should be as important to everybody else.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know what I
sure.
mean? And it's hard to actually submit those things and be like, yeah, this is important, but it's not more important than what my spouse thinks is important.
That's right.
Yeah.
What they think is important is also really important,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So it's hard. Like, so with cleaning, like, so what do you guys do?
I mean, obviously, depending on where you live, if you have like,
No,
if you're
just
in a
you
third
guys
world
though. What do you
country-
guys do? Did you guys
Yeah.
figure that out yet? Or
We
are you
still,
still?
I
still
think,
working through it.
so the funny thing is that we don't like actually really fight except for this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like we don't
this
have
is
like
probably
any
the only thing
fights,
we
to
really
be
fight
really
about now.
honest.
Yeah.
But this is a recurring fight.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just is.
Yeah, which
It
I
just
get.
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
I think
It's
I
just gonna be there. It's gonna be just this thing that we'll always just live with, you know?
I always thought like, oh, maybe if I like keep telling him and I keep showing him like this is what it could be like if it's clean. We're not like stressed out. Because for me, like it all comes like mentally. Like if the house is messy, like it affects like my, you know,
gosh,
like
I'm the same
emotional
way.
state. Like
yes, I'm the same way.
yeah. So
you should see our bathroom right now. There is like makeup and perfume bottles. Janae is reorganizing our bathroom cupboards, and there's stuff everywhere.
yeah.
And every time I go in the bathroom and brush my teeth, I get a panic attack.
Yeah. So same for me. But then I thought like I can kind of like teach him in a way. But I think
I could teach him.
Yeah, you hear that language?
Yeah,
you guys hear that,
yeah,
girls?
Totally.
You can
I
teach your
teach
husband.
him. Yeah.
Train him. Obedience school. Go ahead.
no, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No.
Nothing.
No.
No, never mind. You cannot train your husbands.
You
It
can't.
doesn't work.
No, I think I just accepted the fact that he is how he is. I do really appreciate that he is always wanting to like improve and get better.
Yeah.
But I think because, I mean, he's lived a whole life before he met me.
Yeah.
With like his, like how he lives and how he does things. So I think that it's just hard to 100% change that. So I think I've just accepted the fact. We still fight about it because sometimes I can take it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, it's all right, you know. But then sometimes when I'm not in a good mood and I feel like frustrated about it, I do kind of like attack him, you know, and then and then it becomes a fight.
I could never imagine you not in a good mood, Angela. You're always so cheery.
Oh. Yeah.
No, what you said is so good. I think the key word is acceptance, right? Because everybody, like, that's the thing. We're supposed to love and accept each other, even when we see the things that drive us crazy, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like I would say that it's insane in the ways that I have become more like Janae. Like, we've been married since 2007. So I think that's almost 17 years, or it is 17 years. I always forget. It's insane, the fact that I've taken on so many of her attributes, like, by accident. And the funny thing is, the things that she like confronts head on, I'm like, don't try to change me. You know what I mean? I'm like, how dare you? You know what I mean? But like all the, like now, like before, like let's just talk like little things, like second guessing emails. Like I'll write an email and then I'll be like, babe, what do you think about this? Before I would be like, I don't need anybody else's opinion on how I'm writing an email. I'm gonna write an email. But now I'm like, babe, I need you to look at this. Can you look? And she's like, I can't look till later. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait till later to send it. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because that is something she has always done. She loves opinions and she loves hearing people's thoughts and perspectives before you come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
I've never been like that. I'm like, I don't want anyone's opinions. Leave me alone. Let me do my thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I've just taken on so much of her, but it's never been about like her being like, you need to change. It's just literally been about, as time goes by, I see the way she does things, and it's almost like I learn the value of them, and I go, oh, actually, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty great, like, the way she has figured that out. Like, I used to hate throw pillows on couches, pillows on beds. I hate them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now when I sit on a couch with no pillows, I feel like it's so ghetto.
Yeah.
I'm like, get me off of this ghetto couch. I'm like, I need a pillow under my right arm, under my left arm, behind my back, maybe a pillow for my lap so my laptop can go on a pillow. Like, I want pillows all around me now. And it took time of realizing, oh, this is something to value.
Yeah,
right. But before I got married, I was like, why would I ever want pillows on my couch, especially expensive pillows? Like, this is ridiculous. But it's just completely changed.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I felt the same way for us. I feel like there are things about us that we've adopted from each other naturally over time. I think actually the way you said it's so good. This, like, the more you're with someone, you do see the good things that they are talking about or bringing. You start naturally incorporating some of these things. Some could be bad, you know, like dark humor.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes dark jokes. It's like,
That's right.
it's
That's
like
right.
good in the moments, but then if you go too far, it's like, dang, I've corrupted.
Yeah,
someone,
this beautiful pastor's daughter.
Beautiful pastor's daughter.
Yeah.
You know, but there are things. You know, I think like the thing is, like, I might not be the cleanest person, but I do value cleanliness. But I would say that I'm so thankful that my wife is clean, because when we do have people over, do have friends over,
things look
like,
nice.
I'm so thankful that it's a place that people want to come hang out at. People want to be a part of. No one's sitting there thinking like, looking at all the mold on the walls, looking at the underwear on the ground, like, right? Then people just come in and can be, you know, and that's great, right? And so I don't devalue her standard or why. I think it's just like the challenge of me having to rise up to it that feels challenging. Yeah. But I think for us in our relationship, I mean, there's things like, for example, like, I think things that I value are things like, you know, like showing up on time for things, showing up to when you say you want to do something. Following through with your plans, you know, all these different things that my wife does super well. But I would say that if there isn't maybe like an external motivation for some things to push her to do things,
Yeah.
it's hard for her to push that. And I think maybe what she gets from me is that
Did you know that about her before you guys were married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a bit. Yeah, I think a bit.
I'm
yeah.
literally like an open book.
Yeah. I think I would see these things. But it's one of those things, I think, again, subconsciously people say,
Me too,
maybe
Angela.
I could change that.
Me too. I tell
Yeah.
Janae all the time,
Right?
I'm like, I have never changed.
Yeah.
No,
I am who I am.
Yeah.
It's all out here for
Exactly.
you. You
That's
either
how I
love it or
feel.
don't.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with, being clean. It's the same thing.
We all
yeah.
feel like, what's
Right.
wrong with me?
Yeah.
How do you,
Don't you see that? This is how I've always been.
Yeah, this is who I am. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
But I would say but I have seen her with things about like how she sees, I don't know, certain challenges, her trying to take on like this whole new step of YouTube and stuff. I think
Yeah.
how we try to map out our week, map out our schedules, like try to jump into things we don't know. I think there's things that we've both really grown together in that I think have been, very good, very helpful that for both of us, and it's been really,
So, but before you married her, did you think that you would be in this position to be like, I'm gonna help her stay motivated with things where sometimes she'd be like, I don't see the value in this. I don't want to do it. This is lame.
Yeah, no, definitely
You
not.
never
You don't
thought
think
that.
No one
Because
thinks
you see
that.
her as this
Yeah.
pretty driven woman.
Yeah.
Right? She's
Yeah.
like, I know what I want. I've accomplished that.
Yeah.
It's not like she's just hanging out on our couch all day. She had a career.
Yeah.
But then you came in and you're like, oh, like, wait a second. Like, there's still some things about her that I didn't really see or understand.
And so I would say it's like you just thought someone would be an adult, right? But the thing is that everyone has their
Wait a second.
What I'm
He's
saying.
not saying you're a child. Don't worry. Let him continue. Let him continue.
What
Let
I'm trying
him
to
continue.
say. What I'm trying to say is that
Getting hot in here.
everyone has their image of what they think being an adult looks like.
That's right. That's right.
And
Or
I think
a
that's the
complete
issue.
package,
a complete
full
package of an adult. And then and it's like what you said, like what people value as what they think an adult looks like isn't what that other person might value what they think being an
That's
adult
right.
looks like,
Even if you think you are the complete package,
complete package of what
someone
being an
comes along
adult
and
is,
shows
right?
you that you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, like so the one thing that Angela said about the cleanliness, right, is like I thought before I married Janae, like I thought I had a pretty good idea of like healthy sexuality.
Sure.
Like I don't feel like it was corrupted. Like I never had like things in my childhood and things like this. And it's so crazy because like my standard of what normal sex was like with Janae before I got married was so different than hers.
Yeah.
Because Janae's all about intimacy.
Sure.
And I didn't know, I thought sex was intimacy.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, oh, intimacy is
Yeah.
sex. Like us having sex,
For sure.
that's intimacy. And, doing other things.
Yeah, for sure.
But Janae, intimacy is like so much bigger than that. It's like cuddling, it's huge.
Yeah.
Sharing and listening and talking through like hard issues.
Yeah.
Like those are big intimacy things. And I always thought those things were draining and exhausting.
Yeah.
I am like, those aren't intimacy, those are lame. You know what I mean? Like, why would we want to like sit here and have a heart to heart for 30 minutes and then
Yeah,
cuddle?
sure.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
sure.
especially if cuddling isn't going to lead to sex, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, for sure.
So my picture of what I was like, oh, when we get married, when we are living together, no constrictions, no confines, we're gonna have sex all the time. We're gonna have sex in the kitchen, on the balcony outside, everywhere. It's like, oh, there's people in the living room. Let's sneak away into the bathroom really quick and just
Yeah,
tell them that
sure.
we're gonna like replace the toilet paper, but actually have sex. Like I thought it was just gonna be happening all the time, everywhere, anything.
Yeah.
And I
sure.
realized that like as great as that would have been, and I'm still believing for it, it wasn't the kind of intimacy that actually helps us grow in our marriage.
Yeah.
So
that's
I thought I was this like very sexually aware, like sexually healthy person.
Yeah.
But Janae was like, no, you have zero intimacy in your connection with me.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just more about the physical thing. It wasn't about the emotional thing. It wasn't about anything else. And I had to learn that over years, but I didn't allow myself to learn that until I admitted that I wasn't like healthiest in my perspective.
Sure.
It's like, Jordan, what you're saying about cleaning.
Yeah.
Like, so you're like, no, I'm a super clean person, until your wife was like, Jordan, you are not a super clean person.
Yeah,
That's literally how I was. I was like, no, like I am so sexually healthy. My wife is like, no, you have an insane picture of what this is. Like,
Yeah.
we need to talk, we need to be able to connect, we
Sure.
need to spend time together. All these things are super important.
Yeah.
So it was so hard for me because I had to overcome my ego first
Yeah.
and admit that I'm not the complete package. And then I had to start working on myself.
Yeah.
Right? Because the other hard thing when someone points out parts of you who are incomplete or still immature, it's like sometimes we're like, oh yeah, well help me get better. And they're like, no, that's your job.
Yeah.
Like, I can't help you change. Like, I can give you advice, I can tell you, but I can't like climb inside your head and your heart and be like, oh, let me shift things around. You know, that doesn't work. So then you have to take responsibility and say, okay, like I gotta try to work on this. I have to like help it out. Yeah. Like, would you guys say that there was any big thing for you guys where before marriage, you're like, nope, this is right. This is the way life should be. And then after marriage, you're like, man, maybe, like I didn't see that right. Like I was a less than complete picture in my perspective.
Yeah, sure. I love that you look at me. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan, what were those things? What was that like for you?
Yeah, you know, I would say, yeah, I mean, I would feel like maybe both of us had maybe our own thoughts or reservations about sex. Before, I think we were thankful that obviously we've done a lot of like, you know, premarital counseling stuff, kind of prepping for sex.
Yeah, I think letting people into your circumstances can lighten the surprise that you're not the complete package.
That's right, yeah.
Because then it doesn't have to be your spouse to sit there and tell you like, whoa, bro, like chill.
Yeah.
You have other people in your life who can also kind of point those things out and say, hey, Jordan, maybe you should think about this.
Exactly, because I would say that like, so from the intimacy part is something that, you know, I've heard about, but I didn't learn until we got into marriage. Yeah. Like, you know, you hear about this stuff like, oh yeah, I'll practice intimacy. But it's like, it's actually when you like get married that you could actually practice it. Yeah. Of that, like, hey, let's actually talk. This is how something, you know, makes me feel. And I think even the expectation about like how often, you know, like we think we would have sex. Like we did this like test where it was like, before we got married, it was like, you know, how often do you think you're gonna have sex? How often do you think I'm gonna have sex? And then it would be like stuff like, you know, I think Angela was like, oh, maybe because, you know, I'm gonna be with my husband. We're gonna be together every day. It's gonna be like a fun party. It's gonna be so good. Yeah. Maybe her expectation was like, oh, you know, let's have sex, you know, maybe 4 times a week, 5 times a week. It'd be so fun, all that stuff. And then my thing was like, oh, well, you know, if you have a busy schedule, different things, like it might be hard to get 3 times a week or something. But
really,
it's like,
Jordan?
Maybe, I don't know. I would be like, I'd be down for more.
With a busy schedule 4 times a day.
4 times a day, yeah, it would be awesome.
I was like, if I need to eat 3 times a day, then I probably need to have sex at least 4 times a day to stay healthy.
Yeah, which I mean, I would love that.
You're so balanced. No, you're so responsible.
Well, you know what's crazy is that there's been times that we get so busy that we only have sex maybe like once a week sometimes. Yeah. Or like maybe twice a week or other things, or sometimes more, sometimes less. And then you realize that like if then when we get to the point of getting to have sex, it's like, then it comes to the whole thing about like, well, how's our intimacy before we have sex? Yeah. Right. So we can be so busy through the week.
Yeah. Are you spending time together?
And then it's like, oh, well, this is our moment to have sex. Oh, but I don't feel close to you because we're so busy. Yeah. So let's get close. Yeah. And then it's like in that moment, you're like, man, I gotta get close in 20 minutes. So then we can, you know, and like,
I gotta 3 minutes before.
Right. You know,
Tell me your fears.
Yeah. Right.
Talk about your traumas as a child.
Right. Just, come on, give me something. And then it's such this crazy balance of trying to go through that. Yeah. Which I'm sure gets crazier when people get kids and all that stuff. Yeah. But it just goes to show that like any of the expectations that you have pre-marriage, when you enter marriage becomes different, and then 3 years into marriage becomes different, and so on, right? And I think that's something that we had to grow and adjust with. That like there were times that we were like, man, you know, this is what we think the fantasy moments of sex, all these things. And then when you get married, it's like there's some things that you think would be so fun. Yeah. And then when you try it, you're like, I actually wasn't that into that. Yeah. You know?
Shower is a great example.
Right.
How does that work?
I don't know.
Height differences, it's wet.
All these
There's
things.
never room.
Right.
What do you grab? If you slip, you're dead.
You're dead, yeah.
You know what I mean? Crazy. Like, so there's a fantasy things that you're like, this is going to be so dope. And you're like, not that cool.
This wasn't that cool. And then it's the moments that, you know, we had, you know, like, the times that we, you know, if you built this, sometimes it's the issue of routines. Like you'll think, okay, well, we'll always do it at night. Yeah. But then sometimes, you know, it's like, oh, well, we have more time or energy in the morning or the afternoon, and then we switch that. It's like, oh, this is awesome. We just need to change that.
That's it.
And there's other moments, you know. I think, for example, like for us, my wife, she had a cat. She loves cats. Got me to love cats. That's what's crazy. I never thought I would love cats.
Yeah, I usso hate them.
Talk about changing, right? Talk about changing. Yeah. I now love cats.
Yeah, you love cats, and I second guess myself on emails.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a crazy life.
So like, but when she had her first cat that passed away, I became very close with that cat. Yeah. And then when she was crying and I was crying about it, that was something that, you know, I think God used that really brought us close together. Yeah. And through those moments, I think those were some of the best moments that we felt so intimate and close because we were sharing this heartfelt moment. And those are the things that, you know, you can't plan for. Yeah. You know, that's where you learn, you know, intimacy in those moments. You know?
And you connect and it's one of those processes where you can't fast forward it. Yeah. You just have to let it grow naturally. Yeah. And I think that that's super hard for driven people or achievement, or because we want the fruit of the process without submitting to the process.
Sure.
You know, we're like, no, we should be at this place in our marriage. But it's like, no, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Come down to reality.
Yeah.
There's broken stuff, and
Sure.
you haven't gone through any kind of process to fix it
Yeah.
or to get better or to mature.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I in my experience, that is like something that sadly kind of makes it or breaks it in relationships.
Yeah.
It's like when you come in with expectations and you like have this demanding attitude of like, no, this is what it needs to be like.
Yeah.
This is how you need to treat me. This is how this should look, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not just like, hey, we're working it out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not, doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look, but yeah, let's figure this out.
That's right.
And I think sometimes, because like, have you guys ever met, like, you know how sometimes married couples, like, you didn't do this, and I'm so thankful for that. But you ever meet like couples, it happens at 2 times, when you get married and when you have kids. You get married and they just like become weird and on an island of marriage where they like don't have friends anymore. They don't connect
Sure.
with anyone else.
Yeah.
They're just like all about just, and you see them and it's literally like their marriage is like taking everything out of them.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just, you know, I gotta check my husband or my wife, and we're all gonna be together. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't leave without them. You know,
Sure.
hey, you want to go have a beer? You want to go get lunch? I don't know. My wife is gonna be alone for an hour. What? You know what I mean? It's like, right? And it's like that happens, and I think that that's so crazy because it's like they make what they think their marriage should be like their whole world.
Yeah. Sure.
You just forget about any other dreams or purpose or aspiration, and you're like, no, this is like everything right now, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not everything. It's a super important thing.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most important things, but it isn't your whole life, right? Like Angela, you have a unique identity and passions and joys and gifts, and Jordan, you guys have that, and I have that, and I know Janae has that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if I want my marriage to be perfect and everything and all these things right now, and it's going to meet all my needs, then it's gonna kind of be weird.
Yeah.
And it's gonna like be really uncomfortable, and it's really awkward, and like, I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but do you guys know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's like when someone's like, I gotta beat this addiction. So the
Yeah,
best way I'm
and
gonna
they
beat
make
this
it all
addiction-
about the addiction.
Yeah, they're like, I gotta beat this addiction, so you know, I'm not gonna look at porn, I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna do this. And it's like, I'm not doing this, but I'm still thinking about this.
All the time.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's like, and when people do that for marriage, it's like, you know, I'm going to have a healthy marriage and I'm going to be all about my marriage.
Yeah.
And it ends up being not a healthy marriage.
It's gonna
'Cause
be
it's like,
weird.
right? It's all
Yes.
invested in this thing, right?
Yeah.
And same with kids. People do that with their kids.
You know what it is? Is
know?
I think we feel like we control a lot more than we do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like we feel like, oh, if I hang out with my spouse 15 hours a day,
Yeah.
then I will have the best intimacy ever. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not necessarily how that works.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? Like we need things to connect around.
Yeah, that's right.
Connection isn't just about with each other, but connecting around
That's
certain
right,
things.
yeah.
Like, oh, you had a really hard day. Just tell me about your hard day.
Yeah.
If you're just hanging out together for 15 hours a day,
Yeah.
like, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, it's just-
Everything was done in the first hour and a half. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
oh, you're living life and you have this purpose and you have these things that you're pursuing, and I'm doing the same thing. Let's
Yeah.
share about these. Let's
Yeah.
connect around these things.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, like when I first got married, like I stopped going to the gym. I stopped surfing.
Yeah.
Like I stopped doing all these really like things because I literally was like, oh, I'm gonna be all about my wife.
Yeah.
Like when I get home from work, I'm just gonna be like, babe, let's just sit on the couch and stare. You know what I mean? Let's
Yeah.
just like, and really, because I already told you guys what I wanted. So so I was like, oh, like this is like. But then like I realized some of the things that Janae was so attracted to
Sure.
in me
Yeah.
were the fact that I surfed 4 times a week, the fact that I was super fit, super in the gym,
Yeah.
the fact that I had like ambition
Yeah.
and drive. I wanted to accomplish these things. So what's funny is I literally eliminated a lot of the things from my life, and I was telling myself to be more connected to her, right? And those are actually were the things that was helping me connect with her.
Yeah.
Like those were the things where she's like, yeah, like I love hanging out with Alex. I love hearing about how he was like playing basketball today at the gym and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. And
sure.
I love like
That's
that,
right,
you
that's
know?
right, yeah.
And that changed it, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know those things. You don't get that when you're single. You think like, oh, I'm going to find someone I love and then they're going to be my whole world.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's about necessarily,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, it's like, because then it gives you this bigger picture of like what people can look forward to. I think in marriage, it's like for my wife, for example, so she had to jump from being like a professional singer in Sony to then she's going to create her own kind of business and career out of YouTube, which has nothing to do with, she didn't even go for the pathway of doing music, which she could have.
Yeah.
She went into like something else. And I watched this whole process of like her being like, I like all the insecurities, the hurdles, the challenges she had to go through, the overcoming of like starting from nothing to finally like build something from scratch, you know? And I think it was something that was so incredible for our relationship, because it was like, I think maybe because I was part of that process, I was like, oh man, baby, I believe in you, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And then when there'd be moments that she's like, oh, I feel so discouraged, there's this thing going on, that thing. When she overcame that, it was like, this is so exciting. And I think the same thing for us. Like when I was stepping into taking on PIC and doing things, we were doing it together.
And when you say taking on PIC, you talk about moving from being on staff at the southern campus of the collective,
yes,
to being the campus pastor which is a huge change.
Sure, huge change.
Huge change in life, huge change in everything.
Yeah, huge change. Yeah, and so I moved from being like just a part of a team in our main campus to taking on to starting to kick off our other campus.
Yeah.
And then to think about doing that, you know, with my wife, who wasn't like, you know, a trained pastor's wife, a trained theology person, that, you know, she came and jumped into it with me. And a lot of the challenges that we had, a lot of the ideas that we could do, a lot of the people that we connect with, it actually, I felt like it helped build such a value and uniqueness and healthiness in our marriage. That was like, oh man, you know, babe, when we went through this together, I'm so proud of this person that we hung out with. I'm so proud of that person we saw their breakthrough. And it just created such a big picture of like, wow, like our marriage isn't just about us, and that actually makes it healthy.
Yeah.
Because it's about what we're doing together into these other things, and that's what makes it healthy.
Yes.
Right? And that's why I feel like we've seen in both of our lives, as we participate in both of our challenges or journeys together, is that we keep our ambitions, we're aligned in some of our similar ambitions, but then we also have the branches that go out, but they're still part of this tree, you know, and it's so like full of just goodness.
No, that's
you know?
so good, Jordan. I mean, shout out. Actually, we have another podcast episode coming out. It's like, I figured the title is like finding purpose over romance. But it's crazy because people are like, oh, like I want like this romance. I want this romance. But it's like, I think what you just said, a key ingredient is in romance is purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want to be with someone that has dreams and goals and desires. So you can work on those things together and have something to really put your hands to and build together.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the coolest things in the world about having a partner, is building something together.
Yeah, that's
right. Angela, I want to ask you a question, because I was at your wedding because I married you guys in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We'll never say Holland again. So I married you, and I thought your wedding was beautiful. It was amazing. The house was amazing. And I remember showing up that morning and even be blown away. Like God loves them so much, because everything had like a frost on it, right? It wasn't snowing, but it was like this crystally frost on everything outside. And you had that huge window in the room. So it was just so gorgeous, right? But I know that when you were planning that wedding during COVID, during lockdown, it was so tough.
It was.
Right? And I know growing up, you probably had all these ambitions of what your wedding was going to be like. And you're like, oh, well, first of all, it's going to be in a castle. And there's going to be like, you know, ponies and all these things. Like you probably had, just like most girls or women have this ambition. I know like Janae had an ambition that she wanted like 1,000 paper mache cranes or origami cranes hanging from every tree in this giant garden. Yeah. And someone forgot to hang up the cranes. And she was like, she was really sad.
My wedding is really
right. So anyway, like, because we're talking about expectation.
Yeah.
How did you work through that? Because I know some girls that would just be like, we're not getting married then. You know, if it's not going to be exactly what I've been envisioning for the last 20 years. How did you change that? Because I think your wedding was beautiful. I think it was incredible. I think it was tons of fun, but it wasn't necessarily the wedding that you were planning for before. So how did you work through that?
Well, I think, like you said, it wasn't necessarily what I had always dreamed of.
Yeah.
But I think that in our relationship, when we were dating, we were engaged, there were so many moments where it didn't necessarily work out like we wanted it to work out. But I think it made it even better than our expectations. So I feel like our wedding, I mean, our marriage, like even is like, I feel an example of that. Because I feel like personally in my previous relationships, like Jordan has never really like had a serious relationship before me. But like I had like
serious long-term relationship.
Yes.
When you say Jordan didn't have a really serious relationship before you, what does that mean?
Oh, it just means that he was a bad boyfriend because he didn't know how to like actually date. But
Yeah.
that's like another story. No, but I think from like what I learned from previous relationships is that I always kind of, like you said, like chase like the romance and kind of put my partner like on a pedestal, all that stuff. But I think that the difference with Jordan is that I think because I went through all these failed relationships of having always high expectations of like, this is what romance has to look like, you know, like I think I just really kind of like surrendered when I, you know, like got with Jordan. And I thought like, well, you know, like because I used to always get validation from my like boyfriends. And when I was dating Jordan, I didn't get that because he was a horrible boyfriend.
Yeah, I destroyed all of her ideas.
Was he a horrible boyfriend?
He was a horrible boyfriend. Like I wanted to
Destroyed
break
all her
up with him
expectations
so
about
bad.
Someone so sweet be such a horrible boyfriend.
I know. That's why I thought. That's why I thought. I think.
Like, I know.
I think he is just a better friend than he is
A boyfriend.
Yeah. But I think that's why. Like I remember just like praying and being like, God, like I don't even care about this person anymore. Like, can we please just break up like peacefully? Like that's literally what I prayed. And I never prayed that before. Like when I really liked someone, when I really loved someone, I would always just pray like, please God, like make it work.
No, Angela, you're
know?
getting so real right now. There was times in our
real.
marriage when Janae and I were praying, or I was praying in front of Janae, Jesus, kill both of us so we don't have to be married anymore. And I prayed that in bed next to Janae, and Janae literally opens her eyes and leans over. She's like, can you at least just pray that he kills you so that I can live the rest of my life happy? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is it. But that isn't fantasy. You don't think that that's going to happen. And that's just a part of life and humility and learning how to overcome things and all that. Okay, but go ahead. I interrupt you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's it. I think just from the moment that I really felt like I'm just going to surrender and, you know, like he is not going to like be my identity or like affirm me, all that stuff. I feel like that is why our relationship is, for me personally, like the most healthy relationship I've ever had, because I don't put that expectation on him to like be like my savior or like hero or like the only person in my life that I live for.
So you learned to kind of completely just surrender what you thought it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Because you've learned over and over again that it's only when you do that that actually you get to enjoy something really, really good that you couldn't have never even imagined on your own. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. And the funny thing is, when I see Jordan with you, I would say that this is the healthiest version of Jordan I've ever seen in my life.
I would agree with that. I can
because Jordan is he's such a driven, performance-driven guy. And he just hates talking about his weakness so much. He's like, no, I do not want to. Why are we talking about failure right now? This is, you know what I mean? Like, but I see him with such authenticity with you, where like I know that he shares fears, I know that he shares things that he struggles with, and I know that. And it's funny, what's funny about fears and struggles, and this is like good for everything, is sometimes like we have fears and struggles that we shouldn't have, but we don't know that until we share them.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, it's when you have someone you trust enough to talk things through and be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I don't know, I'm freaking out, blah, 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 that actually we end that conversation going, oh, like actually I'm not so worried about that anymore. Right? Like Janae's like that with everything. Like, and I used to think, oh, when Janae was freaking out about something, it was my job to like start putting things into action. But actually I'm just like, just let her get it off her chest. And then a week later, she's like, nope, I changed my mind. It doesn't bother me anymore. We're good. And I'm like, oh, cool. But if you don't have someone that you can be that with, right, then you will never get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And like, what's so crazy is, you know what, in my sense, crushes that kind of authenticity and honesty with one another is if you're both trying to live out this perfect picture of what things are supposed to look like.
Yeah, totally.
Like if you haven't learned that, what you just said, the lesson of surrender, then you're never going to be honest and real and authentic and be open about struggles with each other, because you're going to be like, I don't want to mess things up. I don't know. No. What if they, no, you're just like, who cares? I'm just going to be real and honest, and we're going to work on stuff, because that's what marriage is about.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the coolest. I love that you said that. Yeah. You should do a workshop for women that haven't been married, so they can also learn that early on to just spare yourself a lot of heartache, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that men don't do that. I'm not sexist. I'm not sexist. It's just that, like, I just think that sometimes chicks, like, there's this picture
Sure.
of what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
You know, that's really, really tough. And maybe it's just because dudes just live a broken, humble life before God. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know what it is. Oh, dude, you guys are awesome, man. Thanks so much for sharing and talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks, man. It was
great.
good.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
really,
great.
really good. So, so we talked about being kind of what we wish we knew when we were single and how marriage isn't always a fantasy
Yeah.
and what reality is like sometimes. And it was a really good conversation. You guys are
Yeah,
rad.
That was awesome. No, thanks,
Yeah,
man. That was so
super
fun.
cool.
So
yeah,
good.
I love it, Angela. You're so cool. Love, talking with you. Good job, Jordan.
Yeah, that was
love
good,
it.
man.
All right, guys. Well, we love you, and you're awesome. And if you like this, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, please don't tell anyone. Just keep your mouth quiet, and you can pray for a heart of humility. Bye.